Okay, well, I'm joined here by Brian Aspinall, the winner of the Tech Educator of the Year Award. Congratulations, Brian.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Of course. So, can we start off by just having you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background?
Yeah, I'm a small town Harrow boy. Grew up in Harrow, Ontario, in southern Ontario, Canada, and went to a very small school and was a self-taught coder in the 90s, which led me to go into university and study computer science. Long story short, I thought I'd become a high school computer science teacher. I ended up in the elementary space. And admittedly, we teach to our strengths. So coding is something I've been doing for 15 years with my students, and it's the hottest thing going in education right now. Um, so it's led to a lot of opportunities, a lot of consulting gigs, working for the ministry, traveling all over the world, doing speaking. We just got home from Alaska. I was the keynote speaker at the Alaska Society for Technology and Education state conference last weekend. So just here out trying to expose as many kids to computer science as possible, particularly our minority students and female students, because it's a heavily male dominated space right now.
Absolutely. Well, that's definitely very exciting. And, what sort of got you into the tech industry in that space in the first place?
In the mid 90s, my dad was a mortgage broker. He was self-employed, and in those days he used to advertise in the Yellow Pages. And for our Gen X listeners who don't know what the hell Yellow Pages are, it's a phone book that they used to drop at the end of think of it as a physical paper app store, if you will. And they used to drop it at the end of your driveway, and it was very expensive to advertise in the Yellow Pages. So he started making a website, and he was going to put the URL, the link, on the back of his vehicle. Like, totally progressive. It was like 1995. And as a result, I was watching, and I was super enthralled with this idea of being able to change code and watch something live on the screen, change in real time. So I took a media studies class in high school. We had to do some research on a pop star, a celebrity, and we had to find information, and we had to curate information, and we had to present it back to the class. I mean, that's grade 10 media studies. And I said to the teacher, I'm not much of a cut and paste kind of an individual. Can I make a website? And of course, it's 1995. So she said, what's a website? And after I explained what that stuff was, she said, yes. The educator in me now, when I think back to it, that was like a classroom enrichment opportunity. In order for me to actually organize and present this information back to the class, I had to teach myself how to code so that I could display it properly. As a result of that project, she was bragging about me in the staff room. All educators brag about the cool shit their students are doing every single day. So she was bragging about me in the staff room, and the principal found out. And the principal said, do you want to make the very first ever Harrow District High School website? And I was like, heck yeah, that's going to be my claim to fame. I'm 17 years old. It was a bit of a trip. So it's like 1997. I'm 17, working remotely on building websites. Kind of sounds familiar, right? It sounds like 2021, 2022. And he paid me. So I graduated high school with a web portfolio. I started knocking on doors uptown here. I was like going to the hardware store, the pizza joint, the flower shop. I was like, you need a website. You need a website. You need a website. You hear what they're doing down the road? Your competitors are getting a website. Get out of the Yellow Pages. So I hustled my way into my own sort of business before I went to the University of Windsor, and never stopped. Still doing it today. It just looks a little bit differently now with our book publishing.
Wow. Well, it's definitely very interesting. You're definitely well ahead of the time. So it's great to sort of hear your journey into it.
I actually I built and sold 5 apps in my first five years as an educator. I was still coding on the side while I was teaching full time, and I would come home and I would program at night. Now I was building apps for education. If I couldn't find a tool that I wanted to use in my classroom, I just built it, and then I would use it, and then Google would come out with the equivalent, and then I would sell the app.
Yes, absolutely. Well, and speaking of being an educator, can you tell us a little bit about what winning this award means? It definitely is a huge honor, Tech Educator of the Year award. So, do you want to tell us what this means to you?
Yes, and I will humbly say being nominated for the award by my community at large means more to me than winning. It means a lot that somebody took time out of their day to suggest me coming across the radar for this award. I don't know who. I'll never know who unless somebody reaches out to me. And so just being recognized by people in my own backyard is an incredibly humbling experience.
Absolutely. Definitely is. And such a huge honor. And, as we're in the tech space now too, and, you were well ahead of the times. What do you see in terms of sort of tech trends happening now, or what do you think will be coming in the future?
So that's an easy one. We are heavily, heavily, heavily headed to the Internet of Things, the invention era. We're moving out of the app era. It was like the last decade was software, and it's every 10 years it goes hardware and then software and hardware and then software. You can go back to the 70s and 80s when computing became a thing, and then it became office productivity, the Microsoft Word suite, PowerPoint in the early 2000s, and then we sort of went back to hardware when tablets came out, and then we went back to the App Store and it was software again. If we just look at coming out of a pandemic and the restaurant industry in particular, that's one space that nobody really wants to return to work in. So, you know, we never wanted robots to take jobs from people, but now that people don't want the jobs, we're going to see automation in the fast food industry for starters, and particularly in education. The next big, the billionaires, the millionaires, the inventors of the next generation are going to become so by inventing hardware. We're going to see your fridge connected to the internet, your stove connected to the internet. You know, all of those pieces are going to become their own mediums, if you will. A perfect example would be like, if we used to have some Airbnb properties out here, and you know, the door locks were connected to the internet, and that didn't mean we were spying on our guests. It meant we were tracking their behavior. How often did they come and go? Did they check out on time? Did they check in on time? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Well, 5 years from now, who's to say that those locks don't have apps, you know, within themselves that third-party proprietors are now selling? So I think as a result of moving forward back into the hardware era, we're going to create new marketplaces for the next generation to revive the software trends, the app trends, whatever that looks like again. But I do think physical computing is the next piece. We've been so heavily focused on coding, you know, and I'm only speaking in education, coding for the last 5 years, ignoring the hardware side of what computer science is.
Well, it's definitely going to be very exciting and interesting to see everything that's to come in the industry. And, you know, like you said, you definitely are in the education space. And what sort of advice would you give to sort of students or anyone looking to get into the tech industry?
I think our young people, the 9 to 5 industry is dead. It's been dead for a very long time. I think our future is going to be a crowd-funded, crowdsourced, innovative type space. Let's look at Airbnb and Uber for a second. 2 of the biggest companies in the world. They don't sell their own products or services. They've created a community where they empower their members to monetize themselves as often or as little as they want. And so I think our young people today need to find what they're passionate about, and then they need to figure out how the heck they can monetize it, because creativity is here to stay. Collaboration is here to stay. Critical thinking isn't going away. Problem solving is, you know, the biggest skill, you know, we need now in the 21st century, in the era of access of information. It's how you synthesize the information, summarize the information, formulate opinions about the information, then use the information to go out and do good things in your community. I hate to say it, but I don't know that post-secondary education has a place in the near future unless we completely throw out this lecture style on its head. We keep preaching risk-taking and embracing failure in industry, but in the school system, there's too much risk in not getting the grade, and failure is something we punish, particularly in high school and in university. No one wants to take a risk. There's far too much risk in not getting that grade. So in a nutshell, in summary, I think our young people, until we see a radical change in education, play the game of school, but try and see how you can manipulate school projects like I did in 1997 to work in your favor, and then figure out what it is that you love to do. There's so many marketplaces out there where you can sell your own skills and services already. You don't need a degree. You can do it when you're 14 years old. Websites like Fiverr, you know, like I'll make you a YouTube intro, $20. Create your online footprint, create your digital footprint right now, because we need to make the positives so loud that the negatives become almost unhearable. And what I mean is your digital footprint. I'm an open book. You Google Brian Aspinall, you're going to get 3 pages of me right at the very beginning.
Absolutely. I think that's great advice. And I mean, the opportunities are definitely endless in the tech space. So I'm excited to see everything that's to come. And congratulations again, Brian. It's such an accomplishment here. And do you have any just final thoughts before we wrap up?
My final thoughts are, in a world In a world that changes overnight, the only strategy guaranteed to fail is not trying something new.